It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Okay, folks. On that note, let's welcome Mr. David Crow from the Faulkner County Tea Party back to the show. David, it's always great to have you on.
Hey, Paul, thank you so much. On that chug ho thing, that is classic Dan Douglas. Man, that guy is, he's out there. What is it, 5 votes? And we would have not had Dan Douglas back in the legislature.
Yeah, he barely won his primary. Yeah, and the thing is we actually may be having State Representative Dan Douglas on the program soon. Which is it's that's in the works. But to talk about an unrelated issue, I'm sure we'll get into our differences on taxes. You say one thing about Dan Douglas is that his monologues are comedy gold. I mean, as we've demonstrated, and he certainly seems like or he is a nice guy. It's just I disagree with the policies that he advocates. So.
Right, exactly. He seems to be a nice guy. He spoke at the FOIA committee this month, and interesting fellow.
Yeah, and that was what I was interested in having him on and talk about that FOIA situation. So, David, first of all, I'm totally excited about being in Conway today at noon at Larry's Pizza. I want to invite everybody out there to come and hear the great work that you guys are doing at the Faulkner County Tea Party. Can you tell us a little bit about what's on the agenda for today?
Well, actually, you're on the agenda. That's you're the main guy that's going to be on today. We'll have our opening. We'll have a few comments about things going on around the city, but then we'll be turning it over to Paul, and we're going to have a heavy dose of Paul Harrell.
Yeah,
I'll be are so looking forward to it.
I'll be taking a lot of questions, I'm sure, and that's kind of the. I mean, I'm obviously got some remarks prepared, but I've also really enjoyed just taking questions from the audience. You know, every time I talk down there, it's always a good time, and it's good to be around people who are engaged and want to really just guard the liberties. Of the people, and they recognize that government tends to grow and, drown out those liberties. And so, and I know that's what you've been fighting for a very long time. I also understand that you and your wife, Janet, recently celebrated your anniversary. I want to say congratulations. How many years was it again?
46. We had 46 years of wedding, of anniversary.
Wow.
And amazing. I mean, everybody knows me, and Janet knows that I'm married up in a big way. And so, Thank goodness for Janet. I just so love her. She's so special.
46 years. That is amazing. Congratulations on that, David. David, I wanted to know, have you been following any of this Trump tariff situation? What are your thoughts on it? Because, in conservative circles, you'll hear some people say, conservatives shouldn't support tariffs, or they shouldn't support, what the president is doing, what some people have called economic saber rattling, trying to get America a better deal. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I totally am a Trumpster. I totally back everything he's about. Trump is got an agenda, which is make America great again, and I think I follow everything he does, and I endorse literally everything. Somehow, some ways he goes about it, I would necessarily do it the same way. But let me tell you what, the guy is incredibly successful. So go ahead, raise those tariffs on China, go to 25%. Doesn't bother me at all, and I'm a happy camper that he's about doing the things he's doing, because I think his ultimate goal is to go to a level playing field. Let's erase all tariffs on both sides of the, on the agenda, and not only with the EU, but everybody. And I just think that's the best path to take and put us on a level playing field. And in each of those cases, we're going to win.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's what they're afraid of. The goal of the level playing field is certainly where we want to be. And
right.
I find it, I find it when Democrats and both Republicans are upset, it more often than not, Donald Trump's doing something right. He's doing something that
Exactly.
the one thing that no other Democrat or Republican has done. I mean, whether it's moving the embassy to Jerusalem like everybody said they were going to do but never did, and he did it, or whether it's these tariffs, or whether it's, when he came back from the Helsinki summit, everybody, Democrats and Republicans, were both critical of him. And it's like, okay, well, you must have done something right then, Don. Right. I mean, it's fascinating to watch. I will say that much. It's fascinating to watch him govern. And then, of course, you have the leftists in the media who are, continuing to lie to people, work people up in a frenzy. They want the ratings. They want this emotional-based coverage. And so I'm curious, though, the Koch brothers this week, they came out very critical of the president, saying that they have got to stop him from, enacting his agenda. What were your thoughts on that? Were you surprised?
Oh, well, actually, it wasn't just this week. The Koch brothers have been about this for quite some time. I don't think that they really truly favored having Trump in the office at all. And ever since he's been there, they've been against most of what Trump is about. And that's regretful. They've literally raised billions of dollars to fight the Trump agenda. And it saddens me to see what the Koch brothers have done. I mean, it really, essentially, the Koch brothers are about, their empire, and they want to keep it the way it is. Not only do they want to avoid the tariffs, they want cheap labor coming across the border. They're against a border wall, and so the Koch brothers.
Now, do they
contrary
actually?
To what a lot of people think.
Do they actually say that? Specifically about the border, because I've read stories, but did they actually say we don't want the border wall because we want to keep wages low? I mean, are they that transparent about it, or do we have to read between the lines?
Not necessarily. We have to read between the lines. Now, Tim Phillips has come out, and he's been, he's been on all the networks, especially the Fox News network, and they've spoken out against the tariffs, but they've also implied and stated some things regarding the open border, and that they see it as a negative, most of what Trump is doing. So they're doing it sort of backdoor, which oftentimes is what their agenda and the approach that they take. They not only, they're the ones that put all the money in AFP, and AFP does a lot of their bidding for them as well. And because Tim Phillips is their president with AFP, so a lot of what the Koch brothers want to do is what AFP does on the front line with the movement, and I've seen that happen over the years, and it's very regretful what has happened with that organization.
So the border situation is one where the people of this country voted for Donald Trump, and you say what you want to about him. The one thing he was crystal clear about was he was going to build the wall. It was a huge issue. I had no idea it was as big as it was. I mean, I always lamented how violent things were down there and how we can't secure our borders and what an embarrassment it is. But throughout this week, I've been playing clips of Lou Dobbs. I remember when he had a CNN show, Lou Dobbs was talking about illegal immigration every single night, the violation of American sovereignty every single night. Now he's got a show on Fox Business, and he has brought attention to this, and the people, he had basically his thumb on the pulse of the people, and yet we now may have a situation where Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan say we're not going to fund the border wall. We're not going to give the American people the one thing that they voted for, the one thing that they wanted. And then, I interviewed this lady, Maria Espinoza, a wonderful woman, who is a director of the Remembrance Project, and she's remembering Americans whose lives have been lost because of illegal immigrants who've come to this country and have murdered people. So there is an economic argument, and there's also the safety argument, and the government needs to do its job and keep us safe from, foreign actors coming in here when we can prevent this. And that's the key is, do you believe this, David? Do you believe we can stop this? Like, we can prevent illegal immigration, or at least severely reduce it to what it is now, from what it is now?
Well, I think the latter is the case. I think you could severely reduce it. I think that the border is a must. I think what they're talking about is $24 billion, and in the scope of our budget, $24 billion is not a big number. And so if it takes them taking part of the military budget to do that, I would suggest they do it, because you can knock it in the head quite a bit. And obviously they're going to have to change the immigration rules and regs that they have. That I think that Ryan and McConnell have been an embarrassment. I think I wish both of them would go. Lord have mercy, I wish both of them would go. But I do believe that it could knock it big in the head if we put up the border wall. And now then we also have to do our part to the chain migration and a number of things that are going on there. We just have to change the laws on that.
Well,
so it's going to be a difficult battle, but it's one that I think needs to be waged.
Yeah, and you've got Senator Cotton, and you've got him, attempting to put forth that legislation to bring us towards a merit-based system of immigration. I think that's really good, really bold moves there. Let's talk about China. So I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Donald Trump, he points out German hypocrisy, saying that you want us to protect you from Russia, yet you make Russia rich. We have China, who's a belligerent economic actor. They're expanding their military into the South China Sea. They have a giant economy. The CIA, the FBI wants to supplant. They say that they want to supplant the United States as the superpower of the world, and yet the Governor Asa Hutchinson has made trips to China and has secured these 4 companies that are coming over here to supposedly create jobs. Does that make sense? Is it hypocritical for us to be in a trade war with China, and maybe even a hush-hush cold war with China, and yet we're going to make these communist Chinese companies wealthy and let them use our resources to do it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this whole thing, and I think I've listened to the whole show today and all the comments that you've made about the China influence in the Arkansas economy is it's just staggering to me to realize that we're out courting them when the head of the FBI says that China is our number one enemy, and what they're attempting to do to the United States through the tariffs, through all kinds of trade thefts, through the intellectual intelligence and knowledge that they're thieving from us. What is it Donald Trump was saying? $500 billion a year. And that's amazing that we would actually go out of our way as a state, through the governor's office, want to attract the communist country, China, into our state, and then to support them through all kinds of tax benefits, sell them property and provide benefits, and also invite them to use our legislators as their legislators. It is just amazing and just a travesty to see that occurring in our state, and see that our governor is supporting that effort, and in a big way, and has made, like you said, made many trips over there, and to see that happening into the state of Arkansas, and when the entire country is growing at 4.1% on GDP. Our state is flat, has a flat growth pattern, and the fact is that we have a problem with having a state that has business. The climate for business is not that good, and then for us to use citizens' taxes to attract the communist country to come bring in business here is just
frustrating.
Great deal.
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating. Here is Mike Preston. You mentioned the idea that when we had the Chinese here, we said that these are your legislators now. The director of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, which works closely with the governor to give away this taxpayer money and to recruit these communist companies here. This is what he said at the press conference when they were welcoming Rui to the state.
Chairman Chu, Rui, welcome to Arkansas. And then, Chairman, you'll look out in the audience and you'll see multiple members of the governor's cabinet. We're also here to support you. You'll see multiple members of the state legislative assembly. They're here to support you, and specifically Senator Caldwell, Senator Ingram, Representative Murdoch, Representative Hollowell. These are your senators and your representatives now. You call on them and they're going to help you, guarantee it. And Senator English, I saw you out there too. Thank you for being here as well.
I mean, it was that? I mean, that is so offensive to me, who actually is a citizen of this state.
Right. I mean, think about it, people. They are courting the communist country, China, to come in and own a business here, and we're going to support them by giving them enormous amount of tax credits and giving them money, folks, that we paid into the government to bring in a communist country who is
spying on us. I mean, the FBI
destroying the United States of America.
Yeah. The FBI says that they're and the CIA that they're spying on us, like that they have investigations in all 50 states, according to reports, about their economic activities, and all roads lead to China. Then you have Tucker Carlson over at Fox News talking about how they're lobbying people in D.C. left and right like crazy. I just don't understand why. I feel like the governor needs to address this at some point. I feel like he needs to address the fact that, China is a bigger threat to us than Russia. But for some reason, because of all the hysteria with Russia, Asa had nothing but negative things to say about Donald Trump's Helsinki press conference. And yet we're doing business with the Chinese. We can't get them in here fast enough. Something doesn't add up there. There's a double standard there. It doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense for sure. And you're going to have a press that will never ask that question of him, will not press him on that issue whatsoever. And it is as if they're complicit on it. And then you have the departments of the government down there putting out propaganda pieces like what you shared on the radio show today, promoting the CEO of the state of Arkansas that runs it like a business. There were so many things that you have to laugh at them thinking that he would. The guy's never run a business ever, that he's possibly ever going to be able to run a business. And they're going to call it, they're claiming that he's actually run the state of Arkansas like a business. It would never happen that way. So the man is just, he's a tyrant.
Yeah. Well, I know that, I disagree with his economic philosophy. I get that. If that's fine. Like, we disagree. I don't think you should take taxpayer dollars and give it to companies. Like, it's corporate welfare, whatever. I don't think it works. There's studies to back it up. We could have that argument all day long. But if you're going,
I'm with you on that. Baker's got some great information.
Exactly. But can we at least just say, okay, if we're going to do it, which all other states do this, they try to sweeten the deal or whatever, why does it have to be China? Why China? Why not some other company? And that's the question here, is why China? Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had the answer, and I think that needs to be questioned, but it's apparently not going to be questioned. And the propaganda machine will kick in whenever that is questioned, because they'll revert to something else. They'll say, "Hey, we cut 100,000." Things like, when are you going to start cutting spending? Because they've increased spending like about $500 million a year ever since he's been in office.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, but hey, we're cutting all kinds of spending. We've cut $1,000 out of the budget."
Well,
okay, but you still increase spending by $500 million.
I will tell you this as we wrap things up, David Crow. This hypocrisy, I am not the only one. Conduit News is not the only one to have noticed this hypocrisy with China. There are people who have contacted me who are concerned. And so we're going to continue following this story and see where it gets.
Good.
David Crow, we got to take a break. I will see you at Larry's Pizza today in Conway for the Faulkner County Tea Party Luncheon. Thank you for inviting me to speak, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. I'll share that salad with you today down at the pizza.
Okay, sounds good.
At the Larry's Pizza. Okay,
I'm going to have ranch, though. I am going to have some ranch dressing with it. Okay. All right. Thanks, David. I appreciate it. Bye. Folks, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in a moment.